Oh, there he is.
Okay.
How you doing, man? How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. Do you want us to move the camera? How's that?
That's cool. That's cool. Thanks for taking the time, Vernon. I really appreciate the time and speaking. How's it going? Are you in LA at the moment? Then is it Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'm in Santa Monica.
Do you live there now? Is it for a part?
No. This is where I live.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm down here, and sorry about yesterday. I just had no idea how you had to do this, and I was trapped at home, and our office manager here, One T, who just came in then to make sure everything was working. I couldn't get to it because I'd had a problem at my house. We had an electrical explosion in the wall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And nearly burnt the house down. So I had electricians and shit, and I was running around, and I'm thinking, I can't do this. I kept trying to figure it out, and I went, I have no idea how to do this. That's why I said, I'm sorry, I have no idea how to do this.
Mate, it's all right. Seriously, it's sometimes I just wonder what the hell I'm doing too. So it's fine. I suppose having electrical fires and everything else is much more important than talking to me. So that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Well, it was funny because this morning I came in the office and I said to Grace, I went, damn it. I said, I've got to go because I had to go and get a cancer taken off my leg.
Right.
And I was like, I got to go get this effing cancer taken off, and I've got to do this call to Stuart, and it's all nearly at the same time. And she said, just go and ask them, go early and ask them, say, look, I've got this very important call I have to make. Can you put me in? And I went, they never do. It's a friggin' surgeon's office, you know. So I went over and I was trying to figure out how I was going to get this done. And I walked in and I said, you know, I have this really urgent call at 11 o'clock. This was at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, we'll have you out in like 10 minutes max.
Right.
And I went, what? She said, we'll have you out in 10 minutes max. Don't worry about it. And I went, seriously? And she said, yeah, no worries, Bert. We'll get you out. And sure enough, at 10 past 10, I was headed back to my office. I got back to the office at 10:30, made another call that I had to do to Sweden, to my production partner, got that finished, and now I'm talking to you. So, you know.
It's been a day then, yeah?
It's been a fun day, mate.
Well, I'm honoured, honestly. You picked me in after. You should have actually said the surgery was hours and hours. That'd have made me feel great if you'd have. I've been in surgery for hours, and I've come to speak to you, you know. So, I didn't know you lived in LA, though, now. It's how long have you been living over there now?
I've lived in LA for 36 years.
Wow. Okay.
Not in LA. I live in a little town outside LA called Pacific Palisades, which is just down the coast.
Yeah.
I live actually just above the beach on the side of the mountain.
Nice.
Been there I've had my house there for 34 years.
Right, okay. So do you go back to Australia much then? Do you go back
I did. When my folks were alive, when my parents were alive, I used to go back occasionally, see them. Yeah. I've got 3 siblings still in Australia, but the problem is once my mother passed away, they all started suing each other over the will.
Right, okay.
And I got so annoyed with them that I got my lawyer to write a letter to them saying that I wanted nothing out of There was 3 things I wanted from my mother.
Yeah.
And I just wrote a letter, had it notarized, and just said, this is all I want. The rest of it you can stick up your...
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're still suing each other over it. It's like, so I won't talk to them. I said, you know, when you guys grow up and stop this crap, let me know and we'll get back to being friends. Right at the moment, not interested.
So, I mean,
but I will be back next year filming again.
Is that with? I mean, I know you've recently. I'll talk about the iconic stuff in a few minutes. And believe me, when I've mentioned obviously to people that were speaking to you today, and the reaction from people saying, "All right, I want you to ask him this. I want you to ask him this." So I've got a pile of questions. I may not get through them all. The questions you may have heard 1,000 times. But ask Vernon this. So okay. So some of these questions I will ask in a few minutes. But
that's fine. One thing I got to tell you.
Go on. Yeah.
My wife was in love with the Bay City Rollers from when she was a kid. She used to follow them. She used to go everywhere looking for them. She still wants to meet them. We were in Las Vegas for a motorbike induction into the Motorbike Hall of Fame for some friends of mine, and we were there. And the singer they got to replace, I guess, the original singer for the last couple of years of when they were working, lives in Las Vegas, and she got to meet him. And she always says to me, we're going to go to Scotland and find him. So do not be surprised if one day I turn up in Scotland and give you a call and say, well, I want to have a beer.
Oh, man, yeah. Well, the beer's on me. I'll buy you a Guinness. I don't know if you like Guinness, but Guinness is my sort of, is my...
I've actually been to the Guinness factory.
Oh, wow.
And I went to the home of Guinness, the actual... Their home in the valley, the one they used in the films.
Yeah.
I've been there. I got invited to go there for lunch, would you believe?
Very nice. Very nice.
It's different, let me put it that way.
Yeah. So, filming. I mean, you're incredibly busy. I know you're probably as busy or busier than you've ever been, I guess. I've seen a couple of films of yours recently. I saw a film that you were in maybe a year or two ago called The Hoard, where you played a nasty piece of work. And I'm not just saying this because I'm speaking to you, but I thought you stole the film in that bit. 'Cause, I mean, you just looked as if you were really into this part. There's a bit of your dialogue which I'll read here, and I won't. But it just, when I watched it, it just creased me, and I thought it was brilliant, funny, but also just let me, if I can read this. So there's something you're saying about. Well, of course there was the screaming and the begging, and the crying. But then there's a realization that when this cold steel blade cuts into the warm flesh and that burst of spray blood, what's left is just the screaming. And oh God, I love the screaming.
Yes, it was actually quite funny because Paul Logan, the star, and also one of the producers, he wrote it. He contacted me and he said, I'm doing this film and I'd love you to be in it. I can't offer you the villain because there's another one of your friends, an Australian, who's got that. He said, but I want you in the film. Just pick a role. So I read the script and I saw the butcher and it was like 5 lines.
Yeah.
And I thought this could be such a cool character, really good. So I rang up Paul and I said, I want to be the butcher. And he went, no, dude, that's an extra. It's like a walk-on, half a scene, basically. Yeah. And I said, yeah, well, that's cool, but I want to be the butcher. And he said, son of a bitch, I've got to go and rewrite the script now because you want to be the butcher. And I went, So they rewrote the script around what I am.
Yeah.
And we kind of... then he said to me, how are you going to play it? And I said, well, to me, it's simple. He is totally insane, which we know, but he's insane in this really intelligent way of insanity. And that is that this man feels that he is a master chef, that he produces these amazing meals. The problem is, of course, is these people that he's using. But he's so proud of what he does. So when he's got this kid there that he's going to cut up into bite-sized chunks, he's telling him with this pride of how you do it and what you should do and the wisdom of it and the screaming and the way you've got to be careful because if they get too upset, it makes the meat go tough. So you've got to get them just before they get to that. And it's like this whole thing. And it was so funny. We did a rehearsal and the gorgeous producer, the two of them, their sisters, were in the room when I was rehearsing it, and they both walked out. And when I finished rehearsal, I walked out, and they just looked at me and they went, "You are the sickest mother I have ever seen." Just like this whole thing just went into this place that was just so much fun.
It came across that in the film that you just seem to be having the time of your life playing this, as I say, very, very intelligent but cannibal, basically, who like to cook people, which is great.
I just love doing that stuff. I've got like 4 films at the moment coming out which are getting really, really good reviews and things, which I'm very, very proud of. So there's a film you should see that if you've got a chance. It's called The Lighthouse Keeper.
Okay.
And very, very, very interesting film. Very interesting film. There's only really 3 people in the film. There's 3 other roles, but they're more extras than actual actors. but there's 3 leads in the film, and that's all there is.
Okay.
And it's really, really, really a wonderful, wonderful film. So if you get a chance, have a look at it. I love it. It's one of the films that I love that I did.
Well, I saw something very recently, which is only a trailer. I was speaking just the other day to Travis Bain. I know you work with Travis quite a bit. Yeah.
Yes.
And Travis. I did my kind of puppy dog eyes, and I said, this Landfall film that you're doing, I know that the trailer officially is released next week. So he sent me, it was really nice, and he sent me the kind of just a rough version of the trailer. And I don't know if you've seen this, but it looks brilliant. It looks brilliant. And he said, because he sent me a little message, basically what he said was, he said, I personally think Vern has done some of his finest ever acting in this film from his whole career. People are going to be amazed by his performance. And that's coming from Travis Bain, and it's, he knows his stuff. What's it like working What's it like working with him? And tell us a bit about Landfall, because I think it's going to be a special film.
Well, that's the 3rd film that I've done with Travis, and it all came about. It was really funny. They did, and another film you should have a look at if you get a chance was called Throwback.
I've seen it. I've seen Throwback, the Australian version of the Sasquatch type.
Yes, and the Yeti.
The Yeti, and,
I mean, he put a little ad. Him and his partner put an ad in on Facebook saying that they were looking. They had this film they were doing. They had this role that they'd written for this because he keeps calling me the iconic Australian actor, and he said, we wrote this part for this iconic Australian actor Vernon Wells, but we could never afford Vernon Wells anyway. And besides, he lives in America. We couldn't bring him to Australia. We don't have the money for that kind of thing. But if anybody knows someone like him, that they let us know. And the weird part about that was that I was in Australia doing a travelogue, traveling around Australia, and I was in Cairns. I was in Darwin, which is like 2-hour flight from Cairns. And so a friend of mine contacted me and he said, have you had a look at your Facebook lately? And I went, dude, I'm in the middle of Australia. Getting Facebook is not my first priority. And he said, go in and have a look. So I went in and I saw this note, and it just tickled me. So I rang them, and they nearly died when they had me on the phone. And I said, listen, guys, I'm in Darwin. You got 2 days. So if you can use me in 2 days, then I'm yours. We'll be in Darwin in like 3 days, and then that's it. You've got 2 days. So they flew me in, put me up that night, walked me over 3 mountains, as I like to tell Travis. He said, we just got to walk over there to film. We walked over 3 effing mountains. And we shot all day, shooting everything he needed from me. And then we walked back over 3 mountains to get out. And they were so much fun to be around and so incredibly talented that I just fell in love with them, all of them. And walking over 3 mountains, I just give them so much shit over all the time now. But it was just such a dream to work with them. And then when I saw the finished result, I was like, oh my God, this film is so good.
It's beautifully shot, isn't it? I mean,
it's just absolutely beautiful. And I went, I work with them anytime. And then Travis rang me and he said, I want to do this film, Landfall, and I would love you to be in it, doing the lead, but unfortunately, once again, because they're struggling. These are kids that want to get moved from point A to point B to point C sort of thing. And he said, we couldn't fly you out. If there's any way you can get out here, we'd just love you to do it. So I said, how long is it going to be? He told me, and I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll fly myself out and let's do this. So I went out to Australia and we shot this film, and it was such a joy to shoot with them. And it was everybody around me, the other actors were just so bloody good. I mean, they were so bloody good to work with. And what made me want to go was just the story. I mean, you got 5 people trapped in a house during a cyclone, and none of them are who you think they are. And it's just like and your alliances change because the situation changes so rapidly backwards and forwards. So at one stage you're on my side. He deserves to be trying to kill this guy and then suddenly you're like, oh, he's such a son of a bitch. That guy should be killing him.
Yeah.
And so your alliances keep changing because the story keeps changing, and it's so fascinating that you just slowly get the whole story throughout the film, and you don't get it until right at the end.
Right.
You get the crux of why I am who I am, why the guy that I've been torturing is who he is, and it's just, and why the other two people that are in the house are who they are. It's just so amazingly well put together, and I had so much fun shooting it. And the last. The one you're waiting for, the new teaser that they've got, looks brilliant.
It looks great.
Really
I saw a little bit of the other night, and it's only about 2 minutes that I saw, but it looks fabulous. It looks. I think it's going to blow people away. I think it's really going to blow people away when it comes out.
Yeah, and he keeps torturing me with the fact that he used a really, really good friend of mine, Tony Bonner, who's like the penultimate Australian.
Well, he gave me a question to ask you, and he said you would know what I mean when I ask this. So this is a bit of an in-joke, I guess. But he said, ask Vernon what he thinks of Tony Bonner as an actor. That was...
well, I think seriously, Tony Bonner is an actor. You could probably hire someone else for half the money with more talent. No, I actually adore Tony. We've been friends for so long.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was that he rang me because I was back here in Australia. They shot me out, and then they went back and shot the rest of the film. And he rang me and he said, oh, by the way, we're using your good friend Tony Bonner. And I said, oh, great. What, you're not happy with me in the film? And he said, no, we're trying to get an actor in it. So they started this whole thing with me and Tony. Like, it was just so funny. And he sent the trailer to me, and I have a line of dialogue and I in the trailer, and I wrote back to him and I said, Travis, I noticed that you've dubbed my voice. And he wrote back to me and he said, yeah, mate, we got Tony to redo your voice because we needed it to be manly. And that started this whole thing. It was just so funny. But Tony, I adore. I love Tony. He's just one of those gentlemen's gentlemen. Yeah. And a wonderful, wonderful actor.
Well, Travis wanted me to ask you that, so there you go. So
he knew I'd tell you that he knew it.
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah.
Travis is great. I mean, I know that you've been working on something which I think is kind of a taster film, Starspawn, the sci-fi.
Starspawn, we did a little 20-minute trailer for Starspawn, just me and the little girl that plays my daughter.
Yeah.
And she was absolutely amazing to work with. I mean, just so goddamn good to work with. And the whole trailer turned out, they haven't finished it, they're doing special effects on it. Yeah. But the whole trailer is just so wonderful. Yeah. It's around 20 minutes. It's like a teaser of what the movie's going to be. They're going to use it to send it out to all different comic cons and movie cons and all that kind of thing to try and get some financing to do the film. Yeah. And it looks wonderful. It's a really, really fun. For me, that whole film is going to be so much fun. But he's just he's one of those people. Sometimes you kind of meet people in your life who you go, this guy deserves everything he's going to get because he's got this integrity, number one. He's got ability, number two, and he's so bloody good to be around. You kind of, when you're with him, you feel comfortable, you feel good, you go out and do your best work just because you want to. Yeah. And that's hard to find. There's so many people in this business that treat the business like it's a given that they should be somebody, which pisses me off, excuse the French, but it does, because I always like to say to people, you know what, if you've got a job, you should be on your knees kissing the feet of the guy that hired you, because this business is so difficult and so hard that if somebody hires you, you should be so bloody happy to be on that set that you should be running around that set high-fiving everybody because it's just that feeling of I'm working. But they don't. They treat it like shit. It's like, yeah, well, I'm smart. I'm super. I'm the best thing there ever was. So but the nice thing is you meet people like Travis who are like, this business is special.
Yeah.
And special people are in it, and we that's what we do. And I love him for that, and that's why I think I'm so keen to get behind him on everything he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think he's a talent. He's a mate of mine. We spoke a few times on the phone. I really expect Landfall to be great. I think it's gonna be fabulous. I really do. Can I ask you about some of the other roles then? Because as I say,
you can ask me anything you want.
Nice. Okay.
And you have to ask me at some stage what I'm doing at the moment, because if I don't tell you, the guy that I'm working with, the director, is going to come down this line and kick my ass.
Well, let's do that now then. What are you working on at the moment? Tell me what's the latest.
Oh, what am I working on at the moment? Well, I'm producing a film with two producing partners of mine, and the one Felicity Cochran, who's an actress producer who is absolutely wonderful, and the other one is Susan Bell, who's involved with production and money, and myself, and it's called Question Mark.
Okay.
And it's a really, really super script, an amazing script, by a Swedish director called Titus Parr, who was one of the producers as well. I did a film for him a year or so ago. It was a Steven Seagal film called Perfect Weapon.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Well, I was the guy in it with the red splash down my hair and the little thing, licking the thing and doing all the horrible things. He put me in that and he wanted me to have a mohawk, and I refused. So what he did was put a red streak down my hair. We sort of struck up a friendship, and he showed me this script, and he said, I'd really like to do this. And I said, well, shit, let me have a chance of putting the money together and producing it. So that's what we're doing. It'll go into production next year with a really strong cast that'll be in it. And he has another one as well that some other people are working on, which I'll probably end up being in because he likes using me.
Yeah.
But this whole group that I've got together, we're all really keen on doing what we do and doing it the right way, just working with people we want to work with and having fun. I've got another film that's being previewed. Its first screening is this Saturday night called Trouble Is My Business.
Right.
It's a film noir. And just it has got rave reviews.
I think I was sent that. I haven't seen it yet, but I think I was sent a link to that. It's a film noir. It has very much a kind of 1930s, 40s flavor. Would that be right? Yeah.
Yep. And it's getting rave reviews.
I've seen you with it. You wearing the hat and the suit and everything. I think I'm sure I've seen you in that.
Yeah, I play a cop. I play a 1940s police officer in Los Angeles, the corrupt cop.
Yeah.
And a gentleman called Tom Conkle was one of the two writers on it. He's a co-star as the other writer on it.
Okay.
And he directed it. And it was a labor of love for everybody that was in it. And it's one of those films where he got the locations he could get from all over the place.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's green screen. And it's so brilliantly done. It's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's been getting all these amazing reviews from people saying, most people who try to do this screw it up badly, but this one is one out of the box.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing it on Saturday night at the premiere.
So is that what you're more involved with these days now? Is it more producing, or is it still acting and producing?
Oh, no, acting and directing.
Yeah.
And I've been kicking and screaming into the producing side.
Right.
I prefer, excuse me for a sec, I got to click something off the stupid screen. I prefer acting.
Yeah.
But directing I love. That's where I started. When I started my career, I was actually directing more than anything, and acting became an extension of directing, so I could actually learn how to be a good director.
Yeah.
And that took over, and now I'm sort of sliding back into directing. I've got a couple of films that I'm directing in the next 12 months.
Yeah. I mean, you've worked with some major directors in your time anyway. I mean, thinking about something like Mad Max, obviously, which I'm sure you've been asked about 1,000 times. Mel Gibson. What was it like working with Mel? I mean, cause he would have been pretty much in his early days of his career. He wasn't the icon that he became, was he, at that time?
No, he was. He'd come off virtually 2 films.
Yeah.
And Mad Max 1, which they'd done, Road Warrior, the original Mad Max, and he'd done another couple of small films in Australia. And then he went into Road Warrior, Mad Max 2.
Yeah.
He was amazing to work with. He was, the funny thing about all that is that Road Warrior was the first film I ever did. It was like the 4th acting gig I ever had.
Really? Wow. Okay.
And I got cast into it because George Miller's girlfriend, Sandy Gore, at the time, she saw me on stage in a stage play called Hosanna, which was a 2-hander. And I guess if you know what that means, there's only 2 people in the play.
Yeah.
And very intense play. And it took a long time to get me to do it because it terrified me. Yeah. And she just happened to see a performance, and she got in touch with George. And basically from that, George decided that I was the character he wanted for Wes.
Yeah.
And Mel was wonderful to work with. I cannot say one bad thing about Mel. I don't care what people think of him or don't think of him. As an actor, he was wonderful. He was helpful. He was incredibly funny. He was always carrying on, joking with something. Yeah. But so helpful when you were trying to do what, and he knew who, you're the newbie on the block. Yeah, so, he could have been an asshole to me because I was virtually the co-star. But he didn't. He treated me with a lot of respect and helped me wherever he could. The problem was that the news media and things started to build up the character more. It was one of those really ridiculous things where for some strange reason that character hit a nerve with everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it became bigger than it was. It became bigger than life. It just became this huge thing. And they built up this kind of competition between us. And what happened was that Mel and I became not good friends over it. Something that hurt me a lot because I really did like him. And still do. Don't get me wrong. I still think Mel is one of the best directors we've got.
I think he's an incredible director.
An amazing actor.
Yeah, he is an incredible director. I mean, Apocalypto, which I saw a few years ago, is just oh my god! It's probably in my top 10 favorite films.
And his new one, Hacksaw Ridge.
I haven't seen that yet, which is supposed to be great. Have you seen that?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah. It's just an amazing film to watch.
Yeah.
So I have nothing but praise for the guy. I love him for everything he's done and for what he is. And, all the other stuff, I can't comment on because I don't know about it.
Yeah.
And virtually it doesn't interest me anyway because it doesn't affect what our relationship is or what I would be with him.
Yeah.
But I have seen him a couple of times, and it's a little, I would have liked it to be a lot more friendly. It's a little sort of cold. But then Mel is a very insular human being.
Yeah.
He's very standoffish, not because he's standoffish in person, but he just doesn't like to be pushed into crowds. He's got that thing, which I respect.
Yeah.
And so, but a couple of times I've seen him, we've said hi and what's happening. And a couple of friends of mine who have worked with him said he always mentions you. He says, if you see Vernon, tell him I said hi.
Yeah,
so,
that's nice.
He
that's
still
nice.
has that thing, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed working. Him and Arnold, I always categorized as 2 bloody big kids. It was like working with a pair of kids, seriously. You wanted to take both of them out in the backyard and kick their asses, except you knew they'd kick yours, so you wouldn't do it. But it was like being in a kindergarten.
Is it true? I'm sure I've seen you say it before, that when you got the part in Commando, that you didn't actually know who Arnie was in terms of...
No.
I mean, it was a megastar at the time, because, it broken it big a couple of years before, I think, Terminator had been out, and Commando was probably about 4th or 5th in that line of that mega stuff that he was doing
actually,
in the 80s.
Commando was the 3rd.
Was it? Right.
He had done the first of the other one,
Yeah.
and then Commando.
Yeah.
And what it was when I was asked, I was over here doing Weird Science for Joel Silver, and that had taken quite a while to convince me to play the character that I played in to send up Wes, because you know how actors are, you kind of go, well, I've done it. But because of the director that was directing it, I was like, well, shit, he's done all these wonderful kids movies like, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, all that kind of shit. Why not? Could be fun.
Yeah.
So I came over and did it. While I was here, Joel said, I'm doing this movie. My next film is with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I went, who's that? And he said, Mr. America, no, sorry, Mr. World, the bodybuilder, blah, blah. And I went, oh. And he told me, and I went, oh, okay. It didn't sort of register with me. And I went to see the director, and the director didn't want me for the film. He said, no, he's not what I'm looking for. And that was fine. I went back to Australia and did a film back there. Then I got a call, and I had to get on a plane, fly back to the States, because for some reason it didn't work out with the other actor, and so Joel wanted me to do it.
Yeah.
And they were filming, so I'd walked in when they were actually in production. And it was quite funny because I have a way of working which is unsettling if you don't know me, because I don't tend to be all like, oh my God, let's run, let's do it. I'm very quiet, very laid back, and when I'm rehearsing, I rehearse very quietly, because I'm looking at where the lights, and because it's my director side, I'm looking where the lights are, the camera is, where the other actors are. I'm situating myself in the scene, so I'm not boisterous. So apparently Arnie had said to Joel, he didn't think it was going to work because I was too girly. So
that went down well, didn't it?
A reference that was very funny at the time. And the first scene that we did together was a scene where he's tied to the table, and I've got the knife in my hand.
The torture scene.
If I had my way, I would have cut your throat.
Yeah.
And that was the first scene I did upon arriving in America. And of course, when we did that, the minute they said action, I just went into the character and did it. And when it was over, Joel walked over to Arnie and he said, so should we recast the role? What do you think? And Arnie just looked up at Joel and said, never give him a real knife. And that was the end of it. We became really good friends and had a ball doing the film.
Well, I got a couple of questions about Commando that were sent in. A friend of mine on Instagram, fanboy filmmaker, asked about the chainmail costume. Did you get to keep it?
No.
No. Would
that
you
was
want to keep it?
Part of the other actor's costume.
Right.
And it wasn't chainmail. The funny thing is for the longest time, I kept thinking, what is this costume? And a friend in England contacted me on my Facebook and said, do you know what the costume was? And I said, I have no bloody idea. I think it was supposed to be chainmail. He said, actually, what it was a thing called a stoker's vest. And that was a woolen vest that the stokers wore when they were loading coal into the burners in the bowels of a warship.
Okay. All right.
And the reason they wore them, it was made out of merino wool, and when they sweat, the wool would absorb all of the moisture, which would keep them cool. And when the sparks flew out of the burner, if they hit them, they went out.
Right.
So this thing was like a protection and a cooling thing, and it was called a stoker's vest. And I went, oh, and he said, so and they're usually brown or black, not silver. And I said, oh, they just painted silver and said it was chainmail, which I always felt wasn't very good. I think I got the cheap Chinese chainmail because they was able to throw a pipe through it really easy. So I think I got done on my chainmail and get my money back if I was still alive for it.
I've got a question from a mate of mine, Mike Tack. He basically said, in a real fight, would you kick on his ass?
Would I kick Arnie's ass?
In a real fight. That's what
in
he's
a real
asking.
fight?
He wants to know whether or not you could take down Arnie. I think you could, but, what do you think?
You know what? I think it'd be a pretty fair match. The one thing I do know is that when I did Road Warrior, Shell, the gentleman that played Humongous.
Yeah.
He's a bodybuilder. He was Mr. Sweden.
Right. Okay.
And the funny thing is, I realized when I was working with Shell, especially in the scene where he has me in the headlock and he's saying, "Be still, my dog of war." You know, he's holding me when I'm trying to get away from him. I noticed that as a bodybuilder, he's got a lot of muscle, a lot of body substance, but they don't have a lot of strength in being able to hold you for a long time. And I would actually have to hold his arm.
Right.
So that they didn't push away from me, because he really didn't have that strength to keep holding me.
Yeah.
But they've got that immediate strength, which I found quite fascinating. And I think with Arnie, it would probably be a similar situation. So if I could wear him down, I could probably kick his ass. But, you know, the point is, in the wearing down process, he'd probably eat me for dinner. But it would be I think it would be an even match.
I think you could take him. I think you could take him.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate it.
I've got a question from a mate of mine, Stephen Perry. He asked about Bennett. Did Bennett have a first name?
No.
Commando? No. So he didn't actually have one then? All right, okay.
He just had Bennett. That was his purely, and I'm not sure if it was his surname or his first name. Right. It was just Bennett.
Okay.
And we couldn't figure out how to give him one, because with Road Warrior, Wes, we gave Wes a whole name. It was Wes Ignatius Smith. It was actually Wesley, and we cut it down.
Oh, I was going to say, so Wesley doesn't fit.
We
does it?
figured out a whole name for him, but with Bennett, it was like, where do you go from here, Bennett? You know, so we were lost on that. Even Mr. D'Souza, the writer, wonderful writer that wrote the script, I don't think he could have figured out another name for him either.
Another mate of mine, Lawrence Epps, has asked this question. This is quite a serious question. Wes, Lord General, Bennett, and Mr. Iger are all locked in a cage. Who comes out alive?
Wes
Bennett, Lord General, and Mr. Iger are all locked in a cage. Yeah. So the four characters are all locked in a cage. Who comes out alive?
You know what I'd say? Thinking about it, I mean, the obvious choice is Wes because of who he is. Yeah. But if I thought about this seriously, I'd probably say that God, it's now gone out of my mind. The last one.
That's the one, Mr. Iger.
Mr. Iger.
Do you reckon?
I would probably think Mr. Iger would come out alive, because he was the one that had all those wonderful attachments.
Well, this is it. Yeah, an attachment for every occasion. So Yes.
And I mean, if he couldn't shoot him, he probably would have put on that Hughes vibrator he had and beaten him to death. So
death by vibration.
Out of the four of them, probably either Wes or Mr. Iger.
Yeah,
I think Mr. Iger might have just.
I always had a soft spot for Mr. Iger. I mean, it's a great film, is it?